Hello, my name is Jian Dong, and this is my critical reflection for my media studies project. To start off, I decided on fashion for my magazine since it is something I not only enjoy seeing, but have a strong interest in. Fashion has been something that's always caught my eye, not only the way it looks, but the feeling of it. Clothes having all types of texture and personality. Seeing people wear different kinds of fashion makes me want to personalize my own style. Question 1. How does your product muse or challenge conventions? During my research, I found many fashion magazine covers with similar format. These are three out of a few hundreds that I found which caught my eye on how bold and colorful they look. Typically, fashion magazines include the masthead, main image, the lead article, cover lines, and the issue and date line. My examples of fashion magazine covers include all of these conventions. Fashion magazines tend to also have a color palette that goes throughout the magazine cover. At times, they will use specific colors that will stand out in order to not blend into the main image. As you can see, the main covers I have displayed have something in them that stands out. Magazines tend to have a wide spread of colors. The left magazine having that bold hot pink for the masthead and lead article. The magazine cover in the middle having a large baby pink letters in the Dida font to engage the reader's attention, having it easier for them to read. And the magazine to the right having different fonts throughout the magazine cover, making it more interesting and different. Fashion magazines tend to have the subject's photos taken from a mid shot to long shot, being then the subject's clothing is also part of the main focus. So here on the left is the cover page I created, and on the right is the cover page I use as a reference. Some things I have that are very conventional is the masthead at the very top included mines and in the reference. I also have three cover lines on my reference. It has more than three, but typically fashion magazines have at least three cover lines. Both the cover lines on my magazine and on the reference is to the left, not covering the subject in any way. Both my magazine and my reference magazine also include a lead article, being the second largest font shown. Typically, I see fashion magazines having lead articles on the bottom corner, whether it's to the left or to the right, sometimes even towards the top. I decided to have mine on the bottom left, above the barcode, so it does not only not disrupt my subject, but the audience can read it better. As you can see, towards the bottom of the pages, my magazine is also conventional because it has the date line towards the top on the bottom of the masthead in a tiny font, indicating that it was released in spring. While my magazine reference has something similar, said November, indicating it was released in November. Both my magazine and the reference have a catchy phrase, mine's being born from nothing, placed at the top underneath the masthead in a smaller font to the left, and my reference has its catchy phrase on the bottom middle. Something my magazine has that my reference does not have is the barcode. This is so my magazine can be sold in local libraries or supermarkets. My reference not having a barcode can also mean that it is a digital magazine and not a physical type of media. Something I did not include in my magazine is a quote, while my reference does have one. My magazine cover is conventional because the background is plain. Usually in fashion magazines, the background are not too busy and just being one color, as well including some type of shade to give it texture and elevate the simplicity of the magazine. These are some table of contents that helped me during my research to create my table of contents. On the left is my table of contents, and on the right is the reference for my table of contents. I decided to only have one page for my table of contents to keep it simple. Some conventional things I have in my table of contents included the pictures relevant to my stories, the masthead, the date and issue, and the folio page number. I made sure to also add captions to my photos like in my reference. The photo has a caption and the page number that the story corresponds to. As you can see, my featured stories also have its page number next to it, being in a bigger font for audiences' easier readability. Something that is unconventional that I've done to my magazine that was done differently compared to my reference is that I placed my masthead in a small font on the upper top right corner, while my reference does not include a masthead. Although throughout my research, it is common for a table of contents to include the masthead, You might notice that I've placed certain things a different way. I have my contents placed as the biggest font so the audience know right away that it is the table of contents. And the date issued is placed in a smaller font underneath instead of having it as the largest font like in my reference. Most fashion magazines use the font serif, so I will also include that in my table of contents. I wanted to add some sort of artsy feel to my magazine, so for the contents, I use a decorative font called Great Victorian. Another unconventional thing that I have in my table of contents are the cutout images of the vintage jacket, removing the background, giving my magazine a patched scrapbook look that isn't usually conventional to fashion magazines. If my magazine were to be a real magazine, I would have more than 150 pages, since during my research, fashion magazines tend to come with more pages, where most includes ads in order to get the average consumer to buy fashion staples. Something that I would do differently in my fashion magazine is, instead of filling all those pages full of ads trying to convince people to buy things, each page will have a different pattern you can use to create something fashionable of your own, like a sample piece. During my research, table contents are usually in the beginning of the page, so as you can see, I included the page folio on the bottom right, numbering it as page 11, indicating it is still the beginning of the magazine. These are double page spreads that helped me during my research to create my double page spread. On our left, we have my double page spread, and on the right is my reference double page spread. So in my double page spread, I included my main image. Typically in fashion magazines, the main image takes up an entire page, so that's what I did. So on the left is my main image taking up the entire page, and on my right I have the leading article, which is the gift of upcycling, and under my leading article is my byline, which gives a small preview on what the story will be about, it being my attention grabber. It also includes the name of the person that wrote the article. I decided to use a fake name for the person writing the article instead of my name because like a real magazine, there are different people. I decided to give myself, the model, a fake name for the story. I also included the drop capital, which is in the beginning of my article. A drop capital is always included before starting a story in a magazine. I did my body copy in 2 rows to fit my story. It is typical in fashion magazines that you can see in my reference also has 2 rows for its body copy. I also have a caption for my main image on the top left on the main image, describing the clothing item worn. Just like in typical fashion magazines, they have an item of clothing they are advertising to the audience. This is just a detail I wanted to add to my double page spread. I also have the page number on the bottom right, and typically they have the leading article towards the middle to the end of the magazine. The lead article is often shown in the middle or towards the end of a magazine, which is why my magazine page is on the 57th page, which is around towards the middle, not too far ahead, but not too behind. So this is part B of question 1. How does it represent social groups or issues? So typically already in the fashion genre, there are a few issues. Some I've included, overconsumption, class issue, as well as ethical concerns when it comes to the fashion magazine genre. Hence why I created a magazine that doesn't feed into those issues, but instead give advice and solutions. So typically fashion magazines cater towards higher class people, especially more so women that can afford expensive luxury goods. But what about the things that are happening in the back where no one really notices? All the ads convincing people to buy and consume something they're not even sure they will like in the near future. Not everyone can afford these types of products. But have we even considered who's creating these products that make it so accessible for us to buy and quickly thrown out after a few uses? Fast fashion is something that is just underneath our noses. We heard of it, but no one ever grasped the big picture, how it takes into our effect. Yes, fast fashion may have cheap goods, but the industry also exploits workforce, the range of collections per year being more than 50 and causing negative environmental impacts. Fashion magazines mainly show the trendy side of things instead of timeless. In my magazine, it speaks about creating something of your liking, which you'll most likely wear more than just one season. Most brands are also unoriginal, being that they borrowed designs and made with single-use, man-made materials. while My Magazine wants to focus on slow fashion, where you get quality goods for cheap, ethical production methods, and fair wages, as well as smaller collections per year and to reduce environmental impact. It also focuses on the timeless design of the piece instead of just what's trending now. It's not only creative, original designs, but made with natural and recycled materials.